Plaintiff Ilea Davis is suing her ex-boyfriend, Charles Taylor Jr., for funeral expenses for their 2 infant children. Ilea says the defendant wasn't there for their daughter at all during her 15 months of life. But Charles says he believes the plaintiff was responsible for the deaths of her children due to neglect. And he says he's not even sure if he's the father of one of the babies.
Ilea Davis is suing her ex-boyfriend, Charles Taylor Jr., for funeral expenses and emotional distress. Tell me why you're suing your ex-boyfriend.
I'm suing my ex-boyfriend basically for closure and answers. And I'm 25 years old and I've lost not one but 2 children underneath.
2?
Yes.
You've lost 2 children?
Yes.
How
under
old?
the age of 2.
Both under the age of 2?
My daughter was 15 months and my son lived an hour.
1 hour. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
What happened?
Well, basically, I began dating him in November of 2001. And everything was fine. It was a normal relationship until, I found out I was pregnant in June of 2003. And things started changing a little bit more. He started getting into basically other girls more. And then his father passed away July 25th, 2003. And the night that his father passed away, I went into labor. And they had to put me under anesthesia. When I woke up, he was already passed away.
I'm so sorry. Why did he die? What did they tell you?
Basically, they told me I had an incompetent cervix, so when I get so many weeks in pregnancy, my cervix just opens, and being that they didn't know that, I just found out 7 days before that I was pregnant because I still had, no weight gain.
7 days before the baby was born, you found out you were pregnant?
Yes.
How far along were you
5
in the
months.
pregnancy? 5 months?
Yes.
For 5 months, you didn't know you were pregnant?
No movement. I still had my regular every month.
You had your period?
Yes. Yes.
That's very unusual. All right. So, is what she's saying true?
Parts of it, but she knew she was pregnant before then, because I knew she was pregnant before then.
Why would she lie about that?
I don't know. I don't even know why we're here today. I mean,
we're here because she's suing you.
We met. Actually, we did meet in about June. I was on house arrest. She was my sister's best friend. I was 16. She was 19. I mean, we got drunk, did drugs, all of the above. She did a little more than me.
Ilea?
Oh,
No.
wow.
What kind of drugs did you do?
Vicodin, Darvocet, weed.
He is not telling the truth, Your Honor.
I felt like she was responsible for the baby passing away. And I
Because
still
of her
feel that
drug
way.
use?
Yes.
Is there any question who the baby's dad was?
No.
Well, there's no question this was your baby, right?
There was question after the baby passed away.
Why?
Because me and her conflicted, and she told my sister that he was one of her previous boyfriends.
Were you having sex with anyone?
No, I wasn't. I was only with him.
You were
I did not
19,
get-
he was 16. You were only having sex with one 16-year-old?
We weren't. Yes. Honestly.
Okay.
He
I'm
had
sorry
3
about your
kids when I
father's
met him, and he
passing,
has
but
9 kids now.
How many
He
kids
has
does he have?
9, and all of them have had blood tests. These aren't possibilities. These are definitely his children.
Stop talking. How old are you?
22.
How many kids do you have?
Can't answer that honestly, because all of them are
Try.
DNA. It's only 4 that's actually DNA tested. Except for hers, that would have made 5.
5.
And that's what makes the story unbelievable. If all of them
It's
know me and
already
I've been
unbelievable.
around. No, if all of them know me and I've been around, then how come I wouldn't be there for hers? Something has to be mixed up.
Wait a minute. You say 4 the DNA testing, 5 with her. Does that mean there are DNA testing pending on other babies? Are there other women saying that they have your children?
There is, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying their minds. I'm not really wanting to go get a DNA test because I don't want to find out.
Well, how much do you pay in child support, pray tell?
Wow. I got 4 orders of child support. One of them is $50. They take it out of my check. One of them is $50. The other one's $45.
Did you ever hear of a condom?
They don't feel so great.
When you can't make child support payments, who pays?
Nobody. I pay
The
by going to
state
jail.
pays. She says you have 9 kids. You're 22?
Yep.
9 kids? You can't possibly support 9 kids. You can't.
Well, I do what I can.
I'm sure you do what you can. But what I'm saying is you ought to cut it back a little. Charles, let me ask you this. Did you know that Ilea was in labor giving birth to whom she alleged was your son?
Yes.
But your dad was in the hospital dying.
About 3 floors up.
That's unbelievable. I'm very sorry about that. I really am. Did you talk to her after the baby
We talked
died?
on occasion, but we were more argumentative.
Okay. After you had the baby, then what happened?
So we have a funeral service for him, and I believe his mom made him come because at the funeral he was like irritated, like he didn't want to be there. He had an attitude like he had somewhere else better to be. He was just inconsiderate and didn't seem like he cared at all.
Why? Why, Charles?
Okay, well, let's be honest. Right before the funeral, that's when I found out that it was a possibility it wasn't mine. And not to be rude in the courtroom or nothing, but she was a flipper when I met her.
Flipper?
She messed with my brother before me.
He is lying.
All right. What else?
Okay, so after that, basically we stopped talking for a while and ended up started talking again. For what reason, I don't even know. So I got pregnant.
By whom?
By him.
Again?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, me and him basically stopped talking for real. I didn't have anything to do with him. I moved on and began dating someone else. And then I found out I was pregnant. I went to the doctor.
Well, you were dating someone else?
Yes.
You got pregnant by him?
I had broke up with him and moved on. He got a new girlfriend. I got a new boyfriend. I found out I was pregnant. I went to the doctor. They told me the date of conception, and that is when me and him were together. So therefore, I knew it was his child. So I told him, he basically, once again, he doesn't care or whatever. But my boyfriend basically said, you know, I'll be there for you if you need anything. So.
Her boyfriend was the same guy coming around before me and her stopped messing around. So what would you expect me to expect if one day I just look up and he's staying with her now?
We weren't together then.
But he was coming over while we was living together.
We weren't together. It wasn't
was just
even
kicking
like
it, having
that.
a good time.
All right. What month is the baby born?
June
June what?
8th, 2004.
Okay, good. Then what?
So.
Does he come to see the baby?
No.
Does he support the baby?
No.
Do you ask him for money for the baby?
Yes.
All right. Why are you not supporting the baby?
She didn't ask me for anything unless
Why
her
should she if
boyfriend
it's your
said
baby?
that he didn't want it. I saw the baby twice. I mean,
twice?
She didn't.
Why didn't you want to see the baby?
It wasn't that I wanted to see the baby sometimes.
So why didn't you,
It was
Charles?
just, I was still blaming her for past situations that I didn't get over myself.
For your first baby's death?
Yes.
And you were blaming her because of the alcohol and the drugs?
I blamed her for that, and I didn't believe that the first one was mine. So I didn't really take any kind of interest until the child support DNA test came back. And even then, I couldn't even work myself to go around it in. It was
So at
just
some point, Charles, you knew that baby number 2 was indeed your baby.
a little bit before her incident happened where she went to the hospital.
What's the baby's name?
Tylisha.
Tylisha. What happened to Tylisha?
But right before Christmas, I had been taking her to the doctor because her breathing sounded like a little ragged, like, you know, when the baby like gets a cold and you can feel the chest. So I took her to the doctor. He said basically everything was fine. That was probably a cold, so he prescribed her just some cold medication. 2 weeks after that, I take her back to the doctor and I tell him, can you just, you know, she's having breathing problems, just a little bit. Can you just prescribe her for like asthma related, give her a breathing machine. I'll do treatments like. So I asked him, can we do that since everyone in my family basically has asthma. So he said it sounded like a good idea. So he prescribed me the machine that day. So I gave her treatments as scheduled, and it didn't really seem to change too much. So I didn't even get a chance to take her back again because on New Year's 2005, I was in the process of moving. So I put her down in her room for her nap. She was asleep in the playpen in the living room. And my cousin, he comes over and he's like, where's Tylisha? I tell him that she's in her room. So he went in her room.
Give her a tissue. Charles, you don't seem to be moved by this at all.
I'm not.
Why?
I'm just not feeling it. I knew her too long.
What happened, Aaliyah?
Okay, so I went in her room to see what was wrong with her. She wasn't breathing and she didn't have a pulse. So I called 911.
She didn't have a pulse?
No, and she wasn't breathing.
How long had it been since you had last seen her?
It was probably about 8 to 10 minutes.
8 to 10 minutes. You're out of the room. Where is she in the room?
In her crib.
What's in the crib with her?
She had a blanket, and she had 2 of the stack toys.
What happens?
So I called the ambulance, and I started doing CPR on her. So they let me go with them to the hospital. So they revived her. And they were like, because of all the machines that she was on, they put her in the isolation tent. They didn't want any germs or anything.
Okay.
For 2 days, I could not see her. So then when I finally did see her, they said she had minimal brain activity. So they didn't think she was going to make it very long. And they wanted me to basically pull the plug on her, and I couldn't.
Who said to pull the plug on her? Who said to pull the plug on her?
The doctor.
He was the attending physician?
Yeah.
Told you to pull the plug?
And I talked to my mom, and she was like, they're not telling me, they're just telling me that she's in a coma. They're telling me that she's on machines. And I'm like, so I'm trying to ask them, like, what happened? And I'm telling them, I said, it was 2 toys in her crib, but they're like stacked cups that you stack on top, and it was only 2. And it was a blanket. So I'm thinking it by me.
All right, so what happens next?
So I'm like, how could this happen to me? And so finally, they called, I guess CPS came in, and they're like, well, we're going to have to investigate this. And the only way I found out what happened to my daughter is by the CPS report. And they said that it was a near SIDS incident.
A near SIDS,
Yes,
sudden infant death
yes,
syndrome?
That's what they have, yes.
Then what happens to the baby?
So she stays in that hospital for a month because the doctors, they're just like, basically there's only one alternative. The only lady who actually told me there was another was a CPS investigator. And she told me that I can discharge her to a long-term care facility.
How long is she in long-term care?
She was there from February till the end of April.
Then what happened?
They assigned me home health nursing to come in 8 hours a day in case I wanted to work or go to school or anything like that.
Did you ever get a copy of the medical records of the baby when the baby was in the hospital?
Basically, they gave me like the nurse's notes, and I did file for those.
Let me see them. When 911 was called, Tylisha had a mucus plug in her trach that interfered with her breathing. Why'd she have a mucus plug in her trach?
The nurse did not know how to suction properly, and I had to come in and do it and call 911 after I was done because she needed a lot of suctioning beings that she did not know what she was doing on her shift.
So where'd you get this nurse from?
That was her second day, and I told them I had 3 good nurses that I wanted them, but everybody wanted them, so they had to basically split their time with the new employees.
Why are you suing him?
Funeral expenses. He told me he was going to pay for my son's headstone. After my son passed away, that's the only thing I ever asked him to do.
Did you promise to pay for the headstone?
I have no remembrance of that period. We didn't even really talk after that. No, I didn't.
Go ahead. What else are you suing him for?
And I'm suing him for my daughter's headstone that he told me that he would pay for.
Did you say you'd pay for your daughter's headstone?
No.
No. So what else are you suing him for?
For the funeral costs because he didn't do anything.
What are they?
It comes out to $2,197.
Why do you think that you should not at least pay for the funeral expenses for your daughter?
I agree I shouldn't, but I mean, being as stubborn as I was, given to do the situation all over again.
Why are you so angry? Tell me. Why are you so angry? Too much to
explain. It's like everything you love leaves. People look down on me for having so many kids, but I have my reasons for doing so. And they say I can't take care of them. That's not true at all.
Are you a good father to your kids?
Yes, which is why I don't understand why I would just not be there for hers for no given reason. But I have my son's mother is way worse than she is, a whole lot worse, to the point where she tried to stab me, and I'm still there for them.
Charles, you weren't there for your baby girl. You weren't there. How do you expect me to believe you? Just because you didn't like her boyfriend? You know from the DNA that was your baby. Do you blame Leah for the baby's death?
I blame him for both of them, yes.
Why?
Because it was her own fault.
Why was it her fault?
Drugs, leaving a baby in the room by themselves and you cleaning up, you know you about to move all your stuff. Something is going to end up in the playpen, so why not leave them in the open? And then it's New Year's. She know, like I know, all of them was over there getting drunk and smoking. That's why she forgot about the baby being in the playpen.
I did not smoke or drink around my child, period.
But he does blame you for the baby's death.
He always has.
The issue for the court is whether or not the defendant is liable for funeral expenses for his own daughter. There is no question that the plaintiff and the defendant had 2 children together. Unfortunately, their first child died prematurely or at 1 hour after birth. The second child dies under more curious circumstances. Although the Department of Social Services, Indiana Family and Social Services, says that the referrals are unsubstantiated for abuse or neglect due to lack of evidence, doctor reports nothing suspicious regarding Tylisha's condition, and medical reports refer to the events as SIDS, I have to tell you, my background makes it very questionable. I think it's curious that it's almost as though you are setting up a defense by taking the baby to the doctor ahead of time and saying that my baby is suffering from breathing. Let's give the baby a breathing machine like some of my other nieces and nephews have. Then it appears that the child dies because there is mucus in the trach area with a nurse who should have been qualified to clean out the trach area. That's what you told me based upon your testimony here in court. Do not interrupt me. I have a lot of questions here, not the least of which is why this baby, according to the records that I have, has, in addition to respiratory distress and abdominal distension, the baby has a right shoulder that was also dislocated. I would recommend to the Indiana Family and Social Services Administration that they reopen this case, that there are too many questions here. And I've been a prosecutor long enough to know that just because Children and Family Services says it ain't so, doesn't mean it ain't so. Too many issues. That doesn't mean, though, at the end of the day, that you are not responsible for paying for the funeral, and therefore you're getting the money. But I highly recommend that this case be reopened. The death of this baby Tylisha is suspicious at best. So ordered.